I want to know what the breaking point was for each of you when it comes to this system, because I remember sitting in this very building as a college student my sophomore year in 2018. I just started a little podcast called The Photo Finish with my friend Matthew Cole. And, I think at the time we were both, kind of weary of this system. We certainly didn't like it. We would have preferred a full season if we could have been king for a day and been in charge of the sport. But we still covered the sport with complete enthusiasm. And, we went down to Dover for the fall race in 2018, right before the second episode of our show. And we're still really, excited and energetic, regardless of the format. We gave our championship 4 picks, and, we're still covering the sport in that way. It wasn't until Kevin Harvick got completely screwed over in 2020 for me to not even have a chance to fight for the championship, to not even qualify for the championship 4 after the season that he had, that I just took a step back and said, what in the world are we doing here? For me, that was my breaking point. And that was the moment that I have to confess I almost walked away completely, because I just couldn't reconcile not even the fact that Harvick wasn't the champion, but the fact that he was capped at a 5th place points finish and didn't even get a chance to race for one after the season that he had. So, Brandon, again, I'll go to you first. Do you remember any one particular moment where you just took that step back and asked yourself, what in the world are we doing here?
Well, Ben, I think in my college days with the Brandon Crosslin YouTube channel and in its prime, trying to make content on my own and all that stuff, I think the first time my innocence was lost, I think, on the whole playoff idea was 2018. Now, mind you, I didn't start getting back into watching full seasons until mid-2016, I guess, and then like really full 2017. I think 2018 might have been the first time where I was like, oh, wait a minute. And, you can say what you want about it being about Joey Logano, but just the way that kind of ended up, and then was introduced to Kamikaze and his backseat rants and shenanigans, and just kind of experiencing that through his lens, which it was wild. But I think I kind of was still holding on for hope on it. But I think it's really just been here in the 2020s where it's kind of fizzled out for me. We've got a lot of comments coming in, so I don't want to step on those toes.
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm just displaying them for right now, Tanner. If you want to answer the question, then we can circle back to some of these here. I guess you got Lightning saying it was Larson last year for him. He had 6 wins last year, didn't even make the championship 4. But Tanner, what was it for you?
Oh boy, I can name every fracture that it's had. Again, as I mentioned in a previous bit, I have never really been a fan of this format from the beginning. I will say as an 18 and 19-year-old, I found the theatrics of the 2014 and 15 Cup Series playoffs, or I guess as they were calling it then, chase. I found those very entertaining. I still do, upon reflection, even if they were extremely engineered, extremely manufactured, what have you. With that said, the merits of it were always bad to me. Obviously, the fact that Ryan Newman, in a concept that is supposed to reward winning, in the very first year of the format, nearly won the championship without winning, should have just broke it then. Like, the fact that he even came close to that happening, should have just canceled it then. But no, we went into the next year, and before the Cup Series could even get, a tire on the racetrack for Green Flag Racing, the sport's, one of its biggest stars wrecks and breaks bones in both of his legs, completely preventing him from driving. So we gave him a playoff waiver, even though he missed 25 of the first 36 races, which got him into the playoffs, where he didn't win a single race until Homestead, and they won the title. Now, I'm not trying to argue the merits of Kyle Busch's title. I think that on the merits of the stupid format, he won the title, and I'm fine with it. But let's not act like legitimacy-wise that this was a justifiable thing that happened. Kevin Harvick ran all 36 races. Whether he should have or not is entirely other discussion. But if we didn't have playoffs, he probably wouldn't have done what he did at Talladega. And that's a whole other story for another day. 2016 comes around. I mean, watching Carl wreck himself like that was not ideal. I think Jimmy probably would have chosen to have won his 7th title in a much more, we'll say, honorable way, rather than watching his opponents completely wreck themselves out of it. And Kyle Busch just being a total no-show for the night portion of that 2016 finale as well. That gets forgotten about. Obviously, past that, just the fact that Martin Truex Jr. could have lost in 2017 was infuriating on concept alone. 2018, yeah, you could have a problem with Logano winning it, but it's kind of the same thing with Kyle. As I've gotten older, he won on the merits of the stupid system, so I can't really be mad at him for it. But the fact that he beat the 3 most dominant guys that year, whether he was the 4th most dominant driver of the season or not, to me is completely irrelevant to the discussion. It still, there was like a whole race's worth of points that Logano was behind those 3 guys. So there's that. You look at the 2017 Xfinity Series finale, which gained a lot of criticism at the time. I didn't really have a problem with how Ryan Preece raced because he was racing for something, but, you know, people had problems with it then. I didn't really care personally. Then you had the 2019 truck finale, which Ben has a wonderful YouTube video about that I beg you all to look at after this is over, where Matt Crafton, in a season that he didn't win a race, in a format that is supposed to prioritize and encourage winning, won the entire season championship by finishing 2nd at Homestead and not winning a race the whole year. You gotta love it. Not only that, Kyle Busch winning that championship race kind of felt like the 3rd best car winning it. Like, Denny Hamlin falls out in the last 40 laps because his team put a billboard on his air vent on the front of his car, which caused it to overheat and have an additional unscheduled pit stop. Martin Truex Jr. earlier in that race had his tires swapped on, I believe, the exact wrong side of the car, which I can only imagine is just tremendously awful to drive. So, yeah, there was that. You obviously had the 2018 finale as well, where Reddick beat 3 guys in the championship race who completely outperformed him all year long. Very reminiscent to Jesse Love this year, really. Then you have 2020, which I think was the true breaking point. Like, took me up into the air, hoisted up, and brought me down as hard as possible over its knee and broke my back, much in the way that Bane did to Batman. Kevin Harvick losing that title literally broke something in me. Like, not even the fact that he didn't win it, but the fact that he didn't even get a chance to race for it. After literally completing all but 2 laps the entire season, having, I think, 27 top 5 or top 10s total, I believe over 20 top 5s, and 9 wins. Like, it was utterly ridiculous. I felt the same way in 2021 when Larson was going up for the title, and, you know, obviously I think Hamlin's been kind of screwed out of a few titles because of this system. And, you know, thinking that Larson was going to lose out after winning 9 races that year just gave me, you know, flashbacks to literally the previous year when we'd seen it happen before. But other than that, like, the main champions we've had most years, I don't really have a problem with. But you definitely got to look at Trucks 2023 in particular. I was at that event. Let me tell you, I left that event more exhausted than any NASCAR race I've ever been to. And I've been to Talladega where they had a caution-free race. So let me put that into perspective for you. Just watching how that all played out with the Hocevar Heim incident and then the second Heim Hocevar incident, and then just like sitting there dreading the fact that Corey Heim is not going to win the title and Grant Enfinger is not going to win the title, and then like the 8th best truck of the year wins it anyway. Like there was that. Obviously got to look at, just all of this weekend. I didn't have as much of a problem with Logano's last title as everybody else did, even though, like, obviously it's dumb. The 17th best car won all season. Like, it doesn't make any logical sense. But again, he won on the merits of the system, so it's hard to be mad at Logano. But at the end of the day, I'm just like, why has it taken this much for us to get to a breaking point? Like, I feel like the dam of legitimacy, to borrow from Slapshoes,
that was years ago.
Yeah, like
in comparison.
Yeah, like there has been grass growing out of the concrete that was in the dam when it burst open. Like there's new life growing out of it, out of the broken dam. And there's still people, underneath the water because of the dam, obviously drowning the valley beneath. Like, I just don't understand how anybody saw this happening for so long with so many examples and everybody was just okay with it for this long. I just don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, you can really pick any one of those examples out there. I think different people have hit their breaking points at different times. I think different incidents have been more egregious than others in the minds of many. I personally, having looked back in hindsight, and again, I was only 16 years old at the time, so I was just kind of loving the chaos as much as anybody else was. But I cannot believe that was the year that we had the insanity of that Talladega finish, like you mentioned, Tanner, with Kevin Harvick making the move that he did and how that finish played out. And Junior Nation, I'm sure, has their thoughts on that as well. What would have happened if he could have had a shot at Logano, and then he won at Phoenix. I mean, you can play the what-if game. You can only play that so much, but maybe he could have had a shot at a championship for that year. But that happened. And then the Kenseth Logano feud boiled over at Martinsville. And then a guy who missed the first 30% of the season won the championship. And NASCAR saw all of that happen in the same year and decided, you know what we really need? We need this format in the Xfinity Series and the Truck Series as well. And that was the year that they made that change. But like I said, for me, I think Kevin Harvick in 2020 was really the moment that did it. I was starting to feel that way after Tyler Reddick and Joey Logano to a lesser extent in 2018, the year of the big three and me, if you will. And then obviously Crafton in 19 was just kind of like, that's the greatest irony we've seen yet. The fact that it's been proven now you can win the championship under this format without winning a single race. And Crafton, it wasn't even that he hadn't won. He hadn't, I think, had a top 5 since Texas that June. It was not really, I mean, it was a very mediocre season by championship standards, but he had done the bare minimum. I think he was the 8th and final truck to get into the playoffs, and the 88 truck didn't even get into the owners' playoffs. I forget who won the owners' championship that year, but it was not a good season in terms of championship caliber by any stretch of the imagination, and yet he walks away with the title.
Ben, do you remember who he lost to in that Texas truck race?
Greg Biffle.
Yeah. 3 years on the couch, Greg Biffle. He got beat by 3 years on the couch, Greg Biffle, in a truck that he'd never driven before prior to that weekend.
To be fair, so did everyone else. And it was a Kyle Busch Motorsports truck. So
yeah, but
it was a 20 some odd time Cup winner, right? Like, I mean, I think that says more about Biffle than it does about the Truck Series field in many respects. But I do get what you're saying. It was, again, the fact that he won that championship is just absolutely laughable in hindsight to look at. And the guy that finished second in that championship, Ross Chastain, didn't even start the year having declared for points. I know that's a little bit different than Kyle Busch in 2015, but you can make that argument there as well. But Tanner, I understand you got to follow up too.
I actually don't like using Ross because he did participate in all of those races that season.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I actually think they robbed him out of having a ton of other points that he probably should have had, but that's beside the point. So
I don't disagree with that. Yeah.
I took the liberty of checking the lap leaders of each finale race since 2014. So, first of all, something interesting. In half of those races, a non-playoff driver led the most laps, including Jeff Gordon in 2014, Brad Kay in 15, Larson in both 16 and 17, Ross in 2023, and Christopher Bell last year. No one led more than Hamlin did, not only in gross laps, but also in percentage of the race led. The closest anyone came was Gordon in 2014 with 161 of 267, which is 61% of the laps ran. And Joey Logano in 2022 when he led 60% of the 312 lap race. Hamlin's 208 and 67% of the scheduled distance is by far the most anyone's led in any of the championship races in this format in the Cup Series. And yeah, I think that just further cements, again, how much of a belt-to-butt beatdown this was all day long that we watched. And it got taken away because of this dumb rule that we have that makes no sense. As I said on yesterday's show, it's like taking 38-3 with 5 seconds left in the game and a kneel down left to go and giving the other team 35 points out of genuinely nowhere and saying, oh, guess what? They're getting the ball and it's overtime. Good luck. Like, that's exactly what happened to Denny Hamlin yesterday. And not only that, they did this in the Super Bowl. Let's not even, forget that aspect of it. And I think that's the true cheese of all of this, right? They want us to believe that it's a Game 7 when it's really a Super Bowl. Like, if it was a Game 7, we'd have 7 races for these guys to figure it out. But that's not what we have. We have 1. We have 312 laps, overtime pending, clearly, to decide all of this. And I think that's the thing that bothers me the most is even, I think, in a 10-race chase and a 4-race chase, it doesn't matter. Any outcome you have that's going to be determined by overtime to determine the championship is just bad. Like, there's no way around it. It's always bad for the person that is actually winning the race. And that's wrong. 100%. Like, I just, there's no way around it. And if you feel differently, you're entitled to that. But I just think it's silly. Like, this is a serious sport. There's serious money around this sport. Not only coming from the sponsors, but coming from the, obviously the television providers. And we take it so anti-seriously. There couldn't be more folly and frolic in this sport if they tried. And even still, there's no whimsy in what happened yesterday. Not an ounce of it. Everybody hated that, including Kyle Larson, it seems.
Even the winner.
Really saying something.
Yeah.
So, yeah. If you all wanted to see the graph, yeah, my handwriting's too small, and it's not going to produce. But, yeah, thought I'd do a little spreadsheeting while we talked, because the fact that Hamlin did lead the most amount and the most percentage of laps in a championship race's history and still got screwed, really emblematic.
I just want to follow back on this real quick. Justin seemingly, I went back and fact checked this. Thought Austin Hill won that Owners Championship in 2019 for Tory. It was actually Kyle Busch Motorsports, the 51 truck. Christian Eckes finished third in that truck series race in 2019. He was driving the 51 for KBM at the time. So Austin Hill won the race, but he had already been eliminated. Hattori had already been eliminated from the Owners Championship. Crafton finished second to win the drivers. Eckes finished third to win the Owners. Ross Chastain finished fourth, finished second in the Drivers' Championship as a result of that. That's how the 2019 Truck Championship finale played out.
I remember another thing that broke me. It was the 23 Truck finale, but for a much different reason. So,
yeah, we had a hard time here for that.
So 2 weeks before that, they had the final race of the round of 8, 6, whatever their elimination round was at that point. And Christian Eckes slightly moved out of line coming to the finish line at Homestead with 4 laps to go in stage 2. and he ended up with more than enough points to make it to the next round if that result had held up. Unfortunately, they called a penalty on him, even though, again, he was not underneath the truck ahead of him. He wasn't completely out of line. He had just moved across its bumper. They gave him a penalty for that, and it took him out of the championship race that he would inevitably win and would have been a rightful champion. And so we got Ben Rhodes.
Yeah, actually, I think I was thinking back when you started talking about that to 2022. I was thinking about, I think it was the first year we did this show, and Stuart Friesen was at Homestead. That was the last race before
that was
the finale, and ThorSport teammates kind of playing team orders with who was above the cut line and everything. And Friesen even said in his interview, I didn't have a teammate that could lay over for me or whatever. So again, every year of this format, you can look at one of the three series and find whatever example is your favorite, I guess, or perhaps least favorite, we should say here.